Hey everyone, I'm Maria Marshall, your UNICEF Youth Advocate, and I'm so excited to welcome you all to the official launch of the Season of Child Rights for the Eastern Caribbean. The Season of Child Rights is a time for us to reflect on the progress we've made in protecting and fulfilling the rights of every child, from the earliest years to adolescence. We've come a long way, and there's so much to celebrate, but we also know that there's still work to be done. We need to keep the promise of a bright future for every child in our region. To officially launch this year's Season of Child Rights, I'd like to invite the UNICEF Representative for the Eastern Caribbean, Mr. Pieter Bult, to address us.
Greetings from the United Nations Children's Fund Eastern Caribbean Area Office. It's an absolute honor to be addressing you today for the launch of our Season of Child Rights 2024, marking the 35th anniversary of the Convention of the Rights of the Child. The Convention is the most ratified human rights treaty in history. More than 190 countries have signed up to this vision of a brighter, safer, more equitable future for all our children, for every child, every right. Keeping the promise is the powerful theme of this year's World Children's Day, the culmination of our Season of Child Rights. Activities this season include the second year of our impactful 1 Minute for My Rights video competition, the 19th Annual Caribbean Child Rights Conference, and of course, major celebrations in several Eastern Caribbean countries to mark both World Children's Day and the 35th anniversary of the Convention. We are in a time of reflection, a time of reckoning. Are we truly keeping the promise for our children? We have certainly made a great deal of progress in the region in the last 35 years. Since the year 2000, there has been a 60% decline in under 5 deaths across Latin America and the Caribbean. We have also made great strides in education. Access to free primary and secondary schools is becoming a reality for most. Overall literacy rates among youth are high, and the majority of very young children are accessing early childhood development services. The overwhelming majority of our households and families have also access to clean drinking water and sanitation facilities. However, to keep the promise, more is needed. Child rights are under threat, and we need to redouble our efforts, renew our pledge, to give children the future they so richly deserve. As inhabitants of small island developing states, or SIDS, we are all too aware of the existential threat to our future. Hurricane Beryl recently has reminded us how our lives can be shattered in just a few hours. SIDS are among the most vulnerable countries on the planet. The threat of climate change is transforming landscapes and lives. Children and youth in SIDS often live in the shadow of poverty, social inequality, and lack of opportunity. And food insecurity, undernutrition, obesity are widespread. And lastly, we see a rise in non-communicable diseases. Needless to say, SIDS in the Eastern Caribbean are not on track to meet the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. In the Eastern Caribbean, following the COVID-19 pandemic, we're still trying to make up serious educational deficits that too many children faced when they were locked out of schooling for years, without the necessary tools for digital involvement. Aside from these challenges, with access to education, quality is becoming increasingly programmatic. Many of our education systems are not fit for purpose, and only around a third of the students get the passing qualifications they need to move on to the next stage in their lives successfully. Too many of our children still suffer violence and abuse, whether from parents and teachers via corporal punishment or from other students at school. Sexual abuse and exploitation are also still very prevalent. Too many of our children are living with mental health issues. A recent U-Report survey that UNICEF did of children and youth in the Caribbean revealed that 3/4 of respondents felt the need to ask help with their mental health. A UN survey of Latin America and the Caribbean youth reported that in the aftermath of COVID-19, 7 out of every 10 respondents were experiencing mental health challenges. A lot of steps remain on our path to keeping the promise. At UNICEF, we are working with our partners from government and service providers, from civil society, private sector, academia, and other development partners to make a difference every day. One of our key partnerships is with children and young people, who are becoming increasingly committed, vocal, and engaged on community, national, and regional, and even global levels in shaping the future they want to see. A famous example of this was the Global Children and Youth Action Summit, which fed into the International SIDS4 conference in Antigua and Barbuda in May. We are working to ensure that young people have an impact and global dialogues become the norm. There is still a long way to go to keeping the promise to every child, and we count on your continued support. Please do get involved in our Season of Child Rights. Together, let's strive to keep the promise for every child, every right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bult, for your inspiring words. Young people are the heart of this movement, and their voices are essential. So, let's hear from one of our talented young people. Please welcome a very talented young person from Antigua and Barbuda who will share a powerful spoken word piece about the importance of child rights.
Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. Things will get brighter. But that's not today. And I know you expect me to say that I feel like I am a priority, that first and foremost is my safety. So between domestic and political adult egos making decisions for us just to see where it goes after the ink dries and all the smile photo ops, sometimes I really do think you forget about us. I mean, it's 2024 and I still don't know all my rights. But I should, because I have access to the convention, right? I should speak truthfully and for my right, but only when spoken to, right? I can't express my opinion or stick up for myself cause I'm rude, right? Even if I was rude. The things some adults do, like making me to a teacher apologize because he bit me for disobeying. But he was right? And I don't want to embarrass my parents, right? So no reporting what they, the pastor, teacher, politician, adult did, right? In 2024, I'm still told children should be seen and not heard. But what's the point of speaking up and out when no one is listening, or worse, I'm punished for the spoken word? I love everything about the convention. It speaks to my right to an education and protection. I love the fact that it talks about my safety and dignity, even though some of you still ignore period poverty. But you, tick, tick, tock, tick, tick, tock, tick, tick, tock, are running out of time. Or maybe it's just about time that we reintroduce, reproduce, and make it #1 on the news. Hear ye, read all about it. The Convention on the Rights of a Child is more than words on a paper. It's something that has actually been applied. I want to get everything because you said I have that right. I want to walk without fear and dream as big as I dare because you said I have that right. I want to grow into an adult educating children on their rights because that is right. So after 35 years, I say thank you to those of you who have remained true in educating us on our rights, for being our voice in those fights, for remembering us, empowering us, and making the world a little more just, at least for some of us. So let me remind you with just this little spoken word. I am a child, but I have the right to be seen and heard.
Thank you. Your words remind us of the urgency and passion with which we must continue to prioritize children's rights. The season of children's rights runs from International Youth Day to World Children's Day, offering countless opportunities for you to get involved. We encourage you to use your voices, your creativity, and your platforms to advocate for the rights of children. One exciting way to participate is through the 1 Minute for My Rights competition for young people aged 12 to 18. This TikTok challenge gives you a platform to share your views on how well your country is fulfilling the Convention on the Rights of the Child. I was able to place third in last year's competition, and I can tell you firsthand how empowering it was. We'll be sharing the top 3 videos from this year's competition, so stay tuned. I'd like now to invite the Honourable Dikon Mitchell, Prime Minister of Grenada, to share a special message for today's launch.
From the heart of the Spice Isle, Grenada, it is an honor to address you as we mark the start of the season of children's rights. This year, as we commemorate the 35th anniversary of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, CRC globally, and Grenada's 34th year since ratifying this crucial human rights treaty for children on November 5th, 1990, we reaffirm our unwavering commitment to protecting and fulfilling the rights of every child. Over the past 3 decades, the Eastern Caribbean, from Trinidad and Tobago in the south to the Turks and Caicos Islands in the north, has made strides in improving children's well-being. Infant mortality has decreased significantly, with Grenada's rate at 16 per 1,000 live births, well below the global average of 37 in 2022. Access to essential services like healthcare, immunization, clean water, and sanitation has expanded. More than 80% of all children in Grenada are receiving routine childhood immunizations, and well over 90% of all children have access to clean water and sanitation services. Grenada has gone a far way in modernizing its legislative framework for protecting our children through enactment of the Child Care and Adoption Act, the Domestic Violence Act, and the Juvenile Justice Act. The reporting of all suspected forms of abuse against children is mandatory. Across our region, education enrollment rates are also encouraging, with nearly 80% of infants enrolled in early childhood education and 93% in primary school. However, challenges persist. Violence against children, especially as a form of discipline or punishment, remains a scourge, affecting over 60% of homes. Mental health issues among young people are also concerning. It is estimated that between 1 in 4 and 1 in 5 adolescents in the English-speaking Caribbean experience symptoms of mental health challenges. These findings highlight the importance of sensitization, screening, and provision of appropriate services. The fourth industrial revolution also brings new threats and opportunities from emerging technologies such as biometrics, artificial intelligence, and assisted reproductive technologies. Digital connectivity, the way of life for young people, brings risks and opportunities as well. But the most formidable threat to our children's future is climate change. The devastating impact of Category 4 Hurricane Beryl on Carriacou, Petite Martinique, Bequia, Mairo, and Union Island this past July is a stark reminder of the escalating climate crisis. Hundreds of children are still in shelters, schools are damaged, and the road to recovery is long. This is not merely a humanitarian crisis, it is a child rights crisis. The international community must prioritize the protection of children and vulnerable populations in the face of climate change. We must not allow development in other areas to jeopardize the lives and futures of our young people. As we celebrate the milestones of CRC at 35, let us also recommit ourselves to creating a safer, more equitable world for our children as leaders, communities, and families. To our young people, your voices are always essential, and especially during this season of children's rights. I encourage you to make good use of the opportunities to speak out against injustice, demand accountability, and participate in shaping your future. This right is enshrined in the Convention, and technological advancements allow you to join a global community of activists calling for the changes they seek most in this world. To governments, policymakers, and especially our international partners, I urge increased investment in climate adaptation, disaster preparedness, mental health support, and poverty eradication for all our children. Let us keep the promise we made to our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for your commitment to our children. As we wrap up this launch, I want to thank you all for joining us today. Remember, every child deserves a chance to reach their full potential. Let's work together to create a bigger, brighter future for all. Stay tuned to our UNICEF Eastern Caribbean Facebook pages for more information on how you can get involved in the season of child rights. Let's keep the promise. Now, we leave you with our top 3 videos from last year's competition. The Convention on the Rights of a Child focuses on the whole child, and it shows that children are human beings too and should have their rights respected. Rights such as the right to have our views respected and the right to share our thoughts freely on topics that will actually affect us well into adulthood, like the climate crisis, which can directly impact our right to health, water, food, and a safe environment. Children are people too, and we deserve a chance to fight for our planet in ways that we can. There can be no action without climate action.
Can you imagine a world where millions of children have no rights, are being abandoned, abused, and driven to work? The world was like that before the UN General Assembly developed the Conventions on the Rights of the Child on November 20th, 1989. Today, I will tell you about my favorite 3. Firstly, children have the right to the best healthcare possible. Remember, it is your body, your health, you have the say. Secondly, every child has the right to play. So join all the clubs in the school and take part in the creative competitions. Most important, have fun. Thirdly, governments must protect children from violence, abuse, and neglect. If you are being abused or neglected, call police 999 or Childline 131. There's always someone to help you, just a phone call away. In closing, I quote from Carol Bellamore, "In serving the best interests of children, we serve the best interests of all humanity." Thank you.
EDUCATION. Each and every child deserves access to supportive and quality education despite their socioeconomic status.
Universal, UNIVERSAL. Education should impart values and skills that empower young minds like you and I to contribute to a kinder world.
OPPORTUNITY. Inclusive education opens gateways for all children to develop and prosper for themselves and their communities. After all, we hold the keys to global resolution. We shall challenge the dilemmas of this world, one word at a time.
Every child has the right to live.
The right to read.
The right to write.
The right to succeed.